you. So it is Monday, May 22nd, and we're just starting the social studies lesson for the week, which is ratification. If you go to the last page of lesson 504 in social studies, you'll see that there's an assignment to do a presentation. And here we go. It's on ratification and the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist. And step one is we're going to fill out a graphic organizer. So I've opened this document, which you can find on the last page of the assignment. And I have opened it using Cami so that I can take some notes. At the end, it says choose a presentation option, but I'm giving you an option instead of writing a play or creating a PowerPoint or writing a debate or writing a book, you're allowed to just record using your computer, record like a few minutes of you talking about it and explaining to me who the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists were. So it doesn't have to be really formal or fancy. You can just talk to me and show me what you know, as if we were having a conversation. Okay, so just tell me what you know about this. But in the meantime, we're about to start the lesson, and I want to pay attention to Federalist views, famous Federalists, Anti-Federalists.
Bye.
Yep, see you later. Famous Anti-Federalists, Federalist Papers, and the Bill of Rights. I'm going to be taking notes on all those things, so I'm keeping them open on a separate site so that I can go back and forth. Now I'm going back to the front of the lesson, page 2, and starting to read. The Federalist view. Sometimes, oh, we already talked about that. Sometimes my brother and I had a hard time agreeing on things, and there are only 2 of us. There were 55 men working on and deciding whether or not to approve the Constitution. Over time, including every day now, people argue about the role of government. Some believe it's important to have a strong central government where they tell you what to do and keep you in line, while others prefer a government with less power and more individual freedom to make up your own choices. Right now, the states are arguing about things like abortion, education. Some people want there to be prayer in school, other people don't. Some people want you to be able to get money from the government to go to private school, other people don't. Everything, the speed limit, the drinking age, the voting age, everything in the world is pretty much debated about whether the government should be able to tell us that or whether we should be able to have votes locally to decide those things. So it's a very interesting topic because they're still talking about it today. The men creating the Constitution were no different. Some believed the US government needed to be powerful, while others worried that a strong federal government would mean less freedom, because remember, they're used to kings and queens who were just in charge of everything. 2 groups, Federalists and Anti-Federalists formed. Somebody has their computer not muted. The Federalists believed in a strong central government that would share power with state governments. Oh, let's see here. I think that's important. So I am going to cut that. And I'm going to put it onto my document, Federalist Views, Strong Central Government. Woo! So see, it doesn't take much to cut and paste some information. Many of the founding fathers were Federalist. Oh, interesting. I guess we need to know one. Let's not do that then. And we're confident that the powers and limits of the Constitution were the answer. Let's learn about these famous Federalists. James Madison is known as the father of the Constitution. He believed the country needed a strong federal government with 3 branches. He also believed there should be checks and balances to make sure one branch does not become too powerful. I'm just going to stick in what he believed and his name. So James Madison, and I'm going to put him here as a famous Federalist. James Madison, and put in his views. He believed. Great. Whew. Anti-Federalist views. Let's keep reading. So this isn't too hard. Let's see who else was a strong Federalist. George Washington. He supported a strong central government. He didn't participate much in the debates, but he supported ratification, which helped convince others. He wrote many letters supporting adopting the Constitution, which is ratification. It's kind of a funny word, sounds like a rat. Alexander Hamilton, who a lot of you are interested in because of the musical Hamilton, he strongly supported the ratification of the Constitution. He worried that the desire of the states to keep some powers harmed the unity of the United States. So he was worried that state power would harm the unity. I think that's an important Federalist idea. Let's give it a try. Okay. Hi, Javen. Did you get it done or did it not work?
It didn't work.
Okay, just stay here. We'll get it done tomorrow.
This session is not available for testing.
Okay. She might not have that session set up. That states powers harmed the unity. So we're doing the social studies document and I'm cutting and pasting some information. So the Federalists believed in a strong central government. They also believed that state powers harmed the unity of the United States. James Madison was a famous Federalist. So this isn't very hard, but you should have both documents open and be cutting and pasting. He thought it prevented Congress from doing what needed to be done. Hamilton didn't agree with the Bill of Rights. He was not into individual rights. He was a Federalist. John Adams also supported the Constitution. He believed the country needed a strong central government. He would later become the first official Federalist president of the United States. So now we've learned about some famous Federalists. Let's go on to the next page. The Anti-Federalists. This power is calculated to annihilate totally the state governments. Oh, this George Mason, he thought that this federal power was going to make the states not have any power over themselves. The Anti-Federalists did not support the Constitution. Wow, that's interesting. Let's go back to our ratification document. They didn't like the Constitution. Why? Let's find out why. The Anti-Federalists believed that the United States did not need a strong central government. Again, why? They wanted the power to remain with the states. They were afraid, that giving more power to the central government would mean less power for the states and fewer individual rights. I'm going to cut that and put it right under the Anti-Federalist view. Boom, they were afraid. There we go. Beautiful. I'm loving this cami. It's very cool. You guys will use this in middle school too. All right, we know that the Federalists or the Anti-Federalists did not believe in state government. I'm starting to think I'm an Anti-Federalist. The Anti-Federalists wanted a Bill of Rights to be added. So that's probably what they were into, individual rights. Let's put that on there. That's like a big deal to them. That must have been the compromise, was adding the Bill of Rights. They wanted a Bill of Rights added. Okay. Let's learn about some well-known Anti-Federalists. I wonder who the Anti-Federalists are. Okay. Melancton Smith. I've never heard of him. Melancton Smith was a U.S. delegate and one of the most outspoken Anti-Federalists. He criticized the U.S. Constitution, saying it was not specific enough. He feared that the government would have unlimited power. Interesting. Okay. James Monroe. James Monroe believed the Articles of Confederation needed to be changed, but he didn't agree with the changes that were made in the Constitution. Like many other Anti-Federalists, he believed there should be a Bill of Rights to protect individual rights and freedoms. He also believed that there should be an election for the president and senators in the new system. Well, that they added too, didn't they? I wonder, were there not elections before? You think you got the job for life or something? I don't know if he's my favorite one. I have to pick my favorite. Thomas Jefferson. Some people consider Thomas Jefferson an Anti-Federalist because there were parts of the Constitution that he did not agree with. He was working with Europe at the time, but he was still able to share his views through letters. He was concerned that the Constitution did not include a Bill of Rights. Including a Bill of Rights would help make sure that specific individual rights and freedoms would be protected. Okay, I kind of like that, but it's not letting me copy and paste, so I won't copy it right now. Let's see who else. The last one, Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry was an American lawyer and politician. He criticized the U.S. Constitution, claiming that it did not protect people's rights and freedoms. In a speech, he famously declared, "Give me liberty or give me death." He wanted freedom and independence, and he feared that the position of a president would become too much like a king. Okay, he's my favorite, Patrick Henry. I like him. I'm going to go here because I think I can probably copy from here. Patrick Henry. Oh, I really like that. I think I'm just going to put the whole thing in there for now. I can always paraphrase it later when I'm talking. These are just my notes, right? So I can later paraphrase them in talking. So I'm copying the whole thing. famous anti-federalist, ba-boom, Patrick Henry. All right, Patrick, let's see if we can get you. I can get rid of this title because that's not doing anything. Boom. Come on. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm up to the Federalist Papers. And remember, I have all week to do this. So the first day, you really should just open up the document and get started taking some notes, reading about the Federalist and the Anti-Federalists, learning who they are. And now we're on page 4, taking sides. Federalists and Anti-Federalists had two very different views. These different views were a major challenge that had to be overcome before they could ratify the Constitution. Review to know what we know about each side. Oh, good. Think about these items and decide whether they're related to Federalist or Anti-Federalist views. Remember, Federalist means a big federal government. So strong central government. How do we do this quiz? I'm not seeing where, oh, there we go. Strong central government would definitely be Federalist. Strong state government, Anti-Federalist. Central government harmed individual rights. Oh, what do you think, guys? Anti? I think that's anti. Strong states harm the nation. Oh, that's the Federalists. Supported the Constitution. Oh, again, the Federalist. Criticize the Constitution. Because the Constitution is a federal document, right? So we learned that Patrick Henry was a big anti-federalist. I think I'm kind of an anti-federalist. I kind of like individual rights. But that Alexander Hamilton was not. He was a big central government guy. And then, do you remember on the other two, Thomas Jefferson, was he a Federalist or an anti-federalist? Do you remember? Anybody? I got to look back. I can't remember. Anti-federalists, there are 4 of them. I sort of think James Madison might be the one who's in here. Let's see. James Monroe, Thomas Jefferson. Okay. Anti-federalist. He's an anti-federalist. All right. Thomas Jefferson. Did I lose my document? Okay. I lost everything. Strong central government. Strong. Criticize the Constitution. Strong state government. Alexander Hamilton. Patrick Henry. Central government harms individual rights. That's the anti. Supported the Constitution. Strong states harm the nation. Thomas Jefferson over here in the anti, and James Madison was a Federalist. Okay, submit. Excellent work. You were able to tell the difference. All right, imagine that you're living while the delegates debated the U.S. Constitution. What would you be, a Federalist or an Anti-Federalist? Print taking sides and complete the activity. Let's take a look. I'm starting to think I'm an Anti-Federalist. Would you be a Federalist or an Anti-Federalist? Answer the questions in a paragraph. Be sure to include at least 3 reasons for your decision. Well, you guys don't have to do this one. It's not required. But if I were going to have to do this assignment right now, I would just probably answer it something like this. I'm starting to think that if I lived, so you want to look back at the question and steal the words. While the delegates were debating the U.S. Constitution, oh, capital because it's a proper noun, it's a name. And this is just what I know about the times, right? And if I were not a woman, then I might have been an anti-federalist. I found the arguments for individual rights and freedoms to be compelling. However, right now we have a lot of states who are passing crazy laws. And I wish we could turn to our federal government for some help with some gun control laws and some laws allowing people rights to all health care. So maybe I'm also a bit of a federalist. I'm not really choosing a side, am I? At least 3 reasons. So I talked about the free rights, but now I've talked about the crazy government, and I better think of one more reason. As far as unity goes, I agree having one federal government is super important, or we would never have remained a nation with so many different opinions and interests. And I do believe we are stronger together. So maybe in the end, I'm a federalist. Okay, so I got a paragraph. I've got at least 3 reasons. Be sure to include 3 reasons. Okay. I don't know if I can make my Cami a larger font. I probably can't, but it's fine like that. Something like that would be a good answer. Let's go back to the lesson. So now we're on page 5. We're halfway through the lesson. Even though the US Constitution was signed on September 17th, it didn't actually become the supreme law of the land at that time. It had to be presented to the people. It was time for the Ratification Convention to begin. Let me look back at my notes to see what else I'm taking notes on. The Federalist Papers and the Bill of Rights. Okay. One of the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation, and remember that was the rule before the Constitution, it's what they started the US on, was that any acts had to be approved by all 13 states before they could be made into law. When it came time to vote on the Constitution, the rules were changed. Only 9 of the 13 states had to agree or ratify the Constitution before it would become law. This meant there was a greater chance of the Constitution being successfully passed. Several steps were required to ratify the Constitution. Let's look at them now. The final draft had to be approved. The US Constitution was signed by delegates on September 17th, 1787. The Constitution could now be presented to Congress and then passed on to the states. Getting started, states held ratification conventions. Delegates chosen by the people voted yes or no on ratification. Federalists and anti-federalists did their best to influence the vote in their favor, so they kind of had a debate. The first pillar on December 7th, 1787, Delaware became the first state to ratify the Constitution with a vote of 30-0 in support of the Constitution. And I think that the northern states agreed first. 5 states had ratified the Constitution by January of 1788. But many were still unwilling to ratify it because it did not include a Bill of Rights. Federalists promised to include a Bill of Rights in order to get the Constitution passed. So there was some progress made. The promise to include a Bill of Rights and to allow other changes to the Constitution after ratification through the amendment process convinced more states to ratify. On June 21st, New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify the Constitution. A little over a year later, 11 states had ratified. Even though the Constitution had not been ratified by all of the states, it was approved and the government could elect a president. George Washington was inaugurated as the president in April of 1789. At last, North Carolina and Rhode Island became the last states to ratify the Constitution. Dun, da, da, da. Okay, I don't think that any of that really gave us the information we were looking for on the Federalist Papers and the Bill of Rights. Well, the Bill of Rights, we did learn that this was a huge part of getting the anti-federalists to agree to ratify the Constitution, because it guaranteed individual rights. Great. This was like tacked on or amended onto the Constitution. All right. On page 6, convincing the people. So they have their little story about her brother. Let's see. My brother and I watched a movie. I explained to him why I thought the movie was good. We both had strong opinions and wanted other people to agree with our views. Maybe I can get some tips on how to convince my brother to change his mind by investigating how the Federalists and Anti-Federalists tried to persuade people to vote yes or no to ratifying the Constitution. Even after the US Constitution was signed, the Federalists felt uneasy. They knew not everyone agreed with the Constitution, and that the Anti-Federalists would do their best to influence people's opinions. The Anti-Federalists felt the same way about the Federalists. Both sides used essays, articles, and political cartoons to try to convince the public that their view was best. So they're kind of telling you that what they used is what you should use in convincing me what you think. Fight for the nation, Federalists, Anti-Federalists, what does it all mean? Look carefully at the picture. Do you see the two men fighting in the center of the room as the other men cheer them on? So this is a primary document. This is a picture from the Times. This political cartoon illustrates the disagreement between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. In the cartoon, an Anti-Federalist points a pair of fire tongs, and the Federalist who is using a cane to fight back. This cartoon shows how strongly both sides felt. Most Federalists and Anti-Federalists fought with words, not these weapons. They had goofy faces. They made these guys look kind of stupid. Huh. Interesting. Federalists. Let's look at that primary document. What do you notice about this political cartoon? What do you think the symbols mean? This political cartoon, look at this eye with some shining on the eagle. I think this is the federal government that's about to take down the individual rights. I'll bet this is Anti-Federalist. No, it says it's Federalist. This political cartoon was used by the Federalists to convince people that Thomas Jefferson's Anti-Federalist ideas were harmful to the nation. So I guess they're showing the federal government taking down Thomas Jefferson. The eagle represents the United States, or in this case, the Federalists. The eagle is rescuing the Constitution from Jefferson's hands as he tries to throw it in the fire. Oh, I didn't look at that, but see, he's rescuing it right there. The eye looking at the eagle represents God. The cartoon suggests that the Federalist cause was supported by God. So the eagle is stopping him from burning the Constitution. Wow, interesting. Oops, I don't want to go to the next page. I want to go back to the documents and see the next one. So the Anti-Federalists, this power is calculated to annihilate totally the state governments. How do you think George Mason feels about the Constitution? How does his view compare to the images used in the cartoons? George Mason was speaking about the proposal of the Constitution to create a strong federal government. He uses the word annihilate, which is a very strong word. It means to wipe it out. To him, accepting the proposed changes to the government meant the death of the state governments, which the people had fought so hard to create. His feelings have a similar message to the Federalist political cartoon, even though they present opposite views. Both sides saw the acceptance of the other's views as the death of the government. You'll hear people talk about that now. What do these three primary sources tell you about the Federalist and Anti-Federalist views? They show how strongly people felt. They showed that the debate divided the country in half, and it hadn't even been unified for long. The Federalist cartoon and the words of George Mason share almost the same message, but in slightly different ways. Each side felt that if the other won, it would be the death of the country. So they just felt like it was a life or death matter. And now we're on to the Federalist Papers. I'm going to finish this up, and I know it's been a long time on here. I'm going just about 2 more minutes, and then I'll stop. The Federalist Papers are some of the most well-known essays we have from the constitutional debate. They were written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay in the fall of 1987. At that time, the Constitution was being presented to the different states for ratification. The papers were a big help in convincing people to support the Constitution. So the Federalist Papers were written by these guys, and they helped people support the Constitution. So let me go and put that in the ratification document right there. Boom. I'm going to make that much smaller. Why is it so weird? We don't want that. And we don't want this. there. So the Federalist Papers are some of the most well-known essays at the time. They helped people support the Constitution. Why is it up there? Give it to me. Why will you not move down? Come on, Federalist Papers. Let's make it a little wider. Why will it not move? Here we go. Ooh. There we go. All right, so this period of time, I've just gone through how you could fill out this form. Then you need to decide that you're going to create some sort of a presentation where you present what you know about the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. So if I were doing this, I might start the recording and just say, today, I'd like to report on two groups who are arguing in our federal government, the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists. Who are the Federalists, you ask me? Well, I'm glad you asked. And you can just talk all about them, or you can just tell me about them. You don't have to be fancy and theatrical. It's just kind of fun. Or you can make a slideshow about them or whatever. Okay, just show what you know a little bit. So that's it for exercise 504. It's not due till Friday. Good luck with it. If you have questions, you can